term philosophy first originated in Greece, and it arose during the ancient slavery period when social productivity progressed rapidly. At that time, socioeconomic development pushed people's cognitive ability to improve. People began to think about the nature of the world and other theoretical issues. The early human philosophical thought was born. The main period of philosophy can be divided into the classical period, the medieval period, and the modern period. In ancient times, the object of philosophical research was ponderous, from astronomy up to geography down. All kinds of problems that can give people wisdom and make them wise are the object of philosophical research. The object of philosophical research in this period contains the object of specific sciences, and philosophy and science are integrated. Among them, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle are the representatives. By the medieval period, philosophy began to be integrated with religion and theology. Since the Church dominated the secular power and spiritual life of the Middle Ages, both philosophy and science were subject to religion's domination. The main philosophical question that arose in this period was the relationship between God and man, heaven and the world. Later, with the decline of the Roman Church, medieval philosophy came to an end.
With the establishment of capitalism, philosophy broke away from theology and gave rise to modern empirical science, and each specific science became independent from philosophy and gained a rapid development, which we call the period of modern philosophy. At this time, philosophy and religion, thought and faith were essentially in a state of separation and opposition, while specific science such as mathematics, astronomy, and medicine became a separate science and were separated from philosophy. The object of philosophical research was narrowed and specified, and various specific philosophical disciplines were formed within philosophy: ontology, epistemology, and logic. The problems of epistemology and the concept of development become the key issues of philosophy in this period. And in contemporary times, due to the independent and rapid development of the natural, social, and consciousness science, the object of philosophical research has changed again. Philosophy no longer studies the problems of certain scope and field of the world, but the common essence and the universal laws of all things and the phenomena in the whole world, such as the origin of the world, the relationship between the matters and the consciousness, and the basic state of the world, thus forming the two major schools of materialism and idealism.
In the history of the development of philosophy, the differences in the environment have given rise to different philosophies in the East and West, and therefore the manifestation of philosophy in the life of the East and the West has also been different. In terms of education, Western philosophy focuses on understanding the world, allowing people to discover what the world is, focusing on the study of values, encouraging students to take the initiative to understand the laws of how things work, and focusing on the relationship between things and people, which led to the discovery of logic and geometry and laid the foundation for Western science.
Eastern philosophy focuses on methodology, telling people what to do and how to behave, and helping students develop a sense of rules so that they learn to follow the system. The focus is on human relationship and on ethical and political development.
In terms of culture, Western philosophy tends to realize individual values and emphasizes the self. Ancient Greek philosophy posed the famous philosophical triple question: who am I? Where do I come from? And where am I going? The definition of the self thus became the origin of Western philosophy, which subsequently gave rise to various terms such as free will, individualism, etc. For Westerners, each person is distinguished by a different sense of self, and thus self-consciousness has become the most dominant part of Western culture.
Eastern philosophy emphasizes sociality, collectivism, the individual belongs to society, and does not emphasize the self. Eastern philosophy emphasizes the unity of all things, believe that it's not necessary to cognize the world by separating the self from the world, and emphasize the concept of being human, that is the moral code that people need to follow as members of community, advocates compatibility and benevolence, and provides the ideological foundation for all of humanity to work together for sustainable development and common prosperity.
In terms of marriage, there are certain differences between Chinese and Western concept of marriage in respect of the purpose of marriage, criteria for choosing a spouse, wedding, and the relationship between the couple in marriage. In Western philosophy, love is the communication between human souls, starting from the spiritual needs of human beings. In the process of establishing marriage, the individual will take precedence over everything else, and marriage is a purely personal matter in which no one can interfere.
In the traditional views of marriage in Eastern philosophy, it's important to have good relationship for a certain lifetime between husband and wives. People usually choose their spouses based on family background, economic condition, education background, and knowledge level. And the husband is usually in the dominant position in the marriage, while the wife is in the subordinate position. The expectation is that marriage will combine the strengths of two families and expand kinship alliances. The difference between Eastern and Western philosophy in life is not only in these aspects, but also in rituals. For example, when expressing greeting, Chinese people usually ask how old are you, what do you do for a living, and where do you live, to reflect their concern and enthusiasm for others.
However, in the West, greeting involves very personal questions that can make others feel invasive and uncomfortable. Different environments have developed a unique philosophy of life in different socialization processes, which have been shaped by specific historical conditions over a long period of time, formed not only by habit of thinking, but also by lifestyle and behavioral patterns. Each traditional principle of etiquette reflects its culture, way of thinking, and values.
We should understand this difference correctly, recognize, respect, and deal with it, and learn to absorb the advantages of other cultures. This will help us to discover more beautiful things from the philosophy in life.